Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like wanting to hear my take on marketing, but getting my POV on markers. Which, by the way, I favor chisel-tipped low-odor markers because 1, they glide with a velvety resistance, and 2, they deliver impeccably saturated lines. Of course, it all depends on what kind of whiteboard I'm writing on and if the glossiness is at a 60%.
Okay, Marcus, I think that's enough.
You wouldn't settle for just any marketing podcast, so don't settle for any insurance. Get the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Gail, before I got into the world of marketing, I used to be a songwriter. I don't know if you knew that, but I used to write songs for a living. I wasn't terribly successful, but it's what I did.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to be Babyface really badly. It didn't work out for me, but that's what I wanted in my life.
There is still time, Marcus. There is still time.
I'm holding out hope. But the interesting thing, to be a marketer now, I used to be at iTunes doing partner marketing there at Apple before I was running digital strategy for Beyonce and then going into advertising full stop. I see so much of marketing and advertising and music like all sort of jumbled together. And, there's some things I absolutely love. And there's some things that I just absolutely hate. And I go, man, that was a really good use of that song or that artist in that context for that brand. And then other things I go, why in the world would you ever do this? It just seems so off. And they both seem so obvious, yet marketers constantly either fumble or find the right magic.
Yeah, obviously, strategically, it makes a ton of sense, right? Brands want to be part of the conversation. They want to be part of culture. So music is at the heart of culture and conversation. Let's work with artists. Let's put great music in our ads. The challenge, I think, becomes, it's like all marketing. Why? Why do you want to be part of this event? Why do you want to connect through music? And then that might lead to a bunch of questions I'd love the market to tell us more about here. I've got these amazing real consumers out in the real world. Is it about, I want to connect with the energy of music, or I want to connect with the storytelling, or I want to connect with that artist's journey? I don't know. There's a million ways to do it. I'd love to hear from the market. What does the market say? What do you think works or doesn't work?
So we got Fagun, we got Julia, we got Katie, all brilliant, brilliant, brilliant minds from the University of Michigan, and they are representing the market today. So I ask you to start, just kind of frame us here. Does music, marketing, do they belong together? Are these two worlds that should be together? Are you with Gail that there's an emotional thing here that's available for brands? Should they navigate it well, or is this church and state that should be separated? Katie, what say you?
I personally believe that marketing and music go tied together. Like they're attached to the hip. They are something that people are so emotionally connected to, and that's what marketing is all about, emotionally connecting with people, because that's our job as marketers, right? To get people to move. Artists still have such a great hold on people because people connect with them emotionally through their music. So if marketers can find a way to leverage that emotional connection, then they can definitely win in the market, in my opinion.
100%, yeah.
100%. I think one thing that's in common between marketing and artists is that both of them are trying to sell a story, whether it's a brand trying to sell their own story, artists trying to express their life through music. Because if the brand story aligns with the artist's story, then that's like a perfect match. And then presenting that to an audience who will identify and then also believe in what they're saying, it almost creates magic.
So storytelling that is congruent, then where do these things go wrong? Julia, if this is there's no reason in the world where brands and music shouldn't be wed, right? Why do we have so many missteps if this is such an obvious thing?
I feel like for me, I think sometimes because music, it's such a universal language, you don't have to speak the language, you don't have to understand the lyrics to really emotionally connect with it. And I think, honestly, I feel like I haven't seen so many terrible music business partnerships before, none that actually immediately stick out to me. But I think when it starts bridging on, it's very much just for the financial purposes, profiting, when it doesn't feel authentic, or it's purely just to promote something and it's not about promoting connection. I think that's when I kind of lose interest and I kind of just look at it as, oh, it's another ad, it's another partnership, it's not worth my time. If it doesn't seek to accomplish the deep down underlying intention of trying to really connect with audiences.
So there are many modalities here, right? Gail, if I were thinking about this, if I was putting on my strategy hat, I go, oh, there's partnerships, as Julia mentioned. There's licensing, where I'm just going to leverage the music that I pay for to be a part of my expression, the storytelling as a brand. There's endorsements, where I'm asking the artists to tell their story and use my brand as a part of the fodder. Maybe it's a chapter in their story, or maybe there's a sponsorship. Like, I just want my logo next to you. Like, those are like 4 sort of big buckets or big doorways whereby brands and music can come together. So let's take those 4 buckets and cast them across a spectrum. One being transactional. I'd probably say licensing is the most transactional, where I just pay you, you let me use your IP. We don't even shake hands. I don't see your face at all. We don't know each other. For example, Prince notoriously would not let brands use his music in an advertising. He passes and the estate goes, have at it. And now there is a commercial about bowling and they're playing Let's Go Crazy. I see that and go, ugh, Prince would never.
Yeah.
Are there instances that you've seen in the marketplace where you were like, that was a really good use of the song there? It made all the sense in your mind? Or on the other side, you were like, why would you ever do that? I open the floor to you, the market.
I'm trying to think of one brand where I can be like, oh, this song with this brand. But nothing's coming up to me because I feel like the song on its own stands very strong. But then connected with a brand, it's almost like I just don't see it.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's exactly every marketer
Wow.
listening to this podcast.
I
is
know.
like,
Cut the music budget.
I'm sorry.
Take the music budget down. It's all good. Savings. Yeah.
No,
Julia,
yeah,
does that register for you too?
completely. I was in the same boat. I think for me, the way I think of it is ads, I almost feel like it's purely transactional, like you were saying, but more so for the benefit of the company that's licensing the song. To me, I always think that companies are just trying to tap into this catchy new song that's TikTok viral, and they're using it to make their ad resonate more with people that are watching it. So I never really think of it as an artist-company partnership. I think of it more so as just, damn, the company's kind of just using the song for its own benefit to try to make it go viral because it's a viral trending song, but it's nothing really benefiting for the artist except maybe money. And even then, it's so insignificant. Like, I don't even remember or think about the partnership or the licensing that much because there's just so much. I'm so numb to it, and I already listened to the song on its own, so I don't really think about it.
So maybe we'd say there that the song already has some established memory structures that just because the brand is next to it, they don't always transfer over. That you hear the song and like you feel a certain way, and the hope, the prayer, inshallah, that those feelings, that nostalgia that is kindled is then moved over to the brand. But that's just not happening. You go, oh yeah, I know that song, but I'm not putting 2 and 2 together with regards to memory. Is that fair to say?
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, now that you're bringing back nostalgia, I just thought of the Airbnb spot in the Super Bowl. So they did this spot with a couple of cartoon characters where they just put them in like the middle of the woods. And the song was I Think We're Alone Now. So that's a very nostalgic song. And it was obviously also around the time that Stranger Things was still trending. So I feel like they kind of tried to hop onto that plane, but at the same time the ad was kind of creepy itself once you analyzed it, because it was like two people in the middle of the woods saying I think we're alone now, and then it just, I don't think it landed just quite right, but I remember it because the song was catchy, but at the same time I can listen to the song and not think of Airbnb. So that's the kind of 2 dots that sometimes will connect and sometimes won't, but I think it also depends on the occasion and the opportunity that the brand is trying to take.
At least they got your attention. So
That is true.
we'll give Airbnb a point there for like you remembered it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the interesting part about that, though, and back to Fionnuala's point about storytelling, is that while that song was perfect context for the story that Airbnb was trying to tell, it didn't have the emotional connection. Yet, What was the song in Stranger Things in the season before last?
Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush.
Running Up the Hill, exactly. That song is a part of Stranger Things, and it shoots at the top of all the Billboard charts, etc. So there is a bit of discernment that we have, and that music makes us feel a certain thing. But when it's in the context of a story that I guess we're bought into, we go, bet, cool. But then when it's one that we're being sold or told, see, I missed that. That's a Freudian slip. That we're being told
Oh,
slash sold,
Yeah.
that we're like, oh, I don't
Oof.
know. Like we sort of make this separation between church and state. It's a weird thing. I don't have any evidence to support that, but that's just kind of what came to mind, Katie, when you mentioned the Stranger Things part.
I feel like the discovery of a song is like a huge part of the song, like how I think of the song. It's like how I found it and where it's coming from. And if like Stranger Things, I'm obsessed with Stranger Things. And like I watched it for my own enjoyment, for my own entertainment, because it's something I love so much. And if I discover music and it's in that way, it's like on my own time, it's something that I really enjoy, the show, and I find a good song from it, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm going to love this song. But if the discovery is from this 30-second ad, and I hate when ads show up when I'm watching Hulu or something. It's like, I already don't like seeing ads, and that's my connotation with it. And it's for a story that's unrelated to the song, or it's for a product that I'm not interested in. That's my discovery kind of connotation with it. Or if I didn't discover it that way, that's kind of like, I don't really think about it then because I'm so attached to my initial discovery memory of that song.
That is actually really well said.
Yes.
This idea of like discovery.
Yeah.
There's a campaign that Translation did. I wasn't at the agency, so I can't take credit for it. But Translation did this campaign with Double Mint Gum. And Steve Stout, who runs Translation, he went to Chris Brown at the time and had them write a song for Chris Brown, that song called Forever. I mean, double your pleasure, double your fun, song, right? That's the
Yeah.
lyric from the Double Mint Gum ad. And he wrote a song called Forever, and that lyric is in the hook, right? It's like in the refrain. So it was brilliant the way this was done. They made the song, which ended up becoming a hit, but then the commercial was an extension of the song. So when the 4-minute song was over, the commercial would play, and it sounded like the song was still going. And he'd be like, double your pleasure, double your fun. It's the right one with Double Mint Gum.
Wow.
So to your point, Julia, like the discovery was in the context of how you actually discover music, as opposed to it being interruptive, disruptive. It's a part of the same story, right? Like, I'll give it to you there. But like that connection really got me firing.
Would we be talking about Cat's Eye if Gap hadn't put them in that ad and given it so much more spins or airtime, or right?
Julia could not have said it any better. That is exactly what I was trying to say, is that I think we discover music and artists on our own, but then brands, I feel like whenever music is used, it always adds to the brand with the music that they're using, but it's that initial discovery that we find that actually stays with us.
So the music works in context, but it's also playing against the context in which we are engaging in the story, right? So that's on the far end of transaction, that spectrum. Let's go one step closer towards relational and talk about sponsorship next. Instead of music playing behind my thing, I instead am your thing behind the music. I'm behind the artist, right? So it's like my logo on the step and repeat. I'm rapping jumbotrons. I'm doing things so the brand is going along with the artist. You know, we think about the Taylor Swift Eras Tour and Capital One, like they were the premier sponsor. So that said, does sponsorship, logos being visible, does that have a stronger hook than music that plays in the background?
The thing with concerts and sponsorships, in my opinion, is that they are tapping into the fandom by giving them exclusivity, which I think works because then more people are like, oh, then I want an Amex, so I can get in faster, so I can get to my artist, so I can get closer to the people that they're trying to sponsor. So some will make sense, and I think that's why so many banks will sponsor artists, because they're like, oh, this is a way to get people to use my product just because it's exclusive to them. And then there's others that maybe don't make sense, and then you just see a logo and you're like, why is this even there? You don't even pay attention to it because all you want to do is pay attention to your artist. Like when I go to to a concert, if I have an Amex, cool, I got the tickets before you. But if I'm at the concert and I'm seeing like American Express, I'm like, yeah, I know the brand, it's fine. Like I won't pay attention to it.
I think, what you're hitting on that's so smart is like if the brand can add some value for the customer, like we've done things with like T-Mobile where at an iHeart concert, if you have a T-Mobile phone, VIP entrance. If you have other people's phones, get in line, and all of a sudden you go, wow, that's super cool. And yes, there's signage and yeah, there's reinforcement and activations and stuff. But all of a sudden, as a customer of theirs, you get something and the artist gets the tour funded. But I totally agree with you, Katie. I think if you're going to show up, give the fans something back.
Yeah.
That's a really good delineation. It's that like when we talk about the licensing of songs, that's for the benefit of the brand only, right? I mean, the artist gets paid, but it's really just the brand trying to borrow that equity in hopes that it infuses value into the brand in your mind. But to your point, Katie, when brands are leveraging their access as utility, their access to these music experiences as utility for their consumers, their card holders, their subscribers, etc. People go, wow, there's a benefit to being a consumer beyond the transactional relationship that I have with the brand. I give you money to get your services. Like, this is an additional thing I get. Wow.
100%. And I feel like when you first asked this question, I immediately thought of like recently, I also tried to fight for my life for Olivia Rodrigo tickets and I lost and I didn't get tickets. But for that one, you need an American Express card to get the pre-sale. What's more than that, she did like an exclusive concert, like a very small intimate concert in New York just for Amex card holders. And that's so cool to me because I don't know, maybe other artists do that. Maybe other artists I just don't listen to, but I thought that was sick. You could pay nothing and just be an Amex card holder and go to this tiny concert with Olivia Rodrigo. That sounds like so awesome. And that made Amex stick out to me. The pre-sale stuff, like a little bit, but having it be like the American Express intimate Olivia Rodrigo concert, that really stuck. And then I think also like the most prime example of like partnerships or like the sponsorship that really works is like the Pepsi Super Bowl. Like having it be so integrated together with the name. It's not just the Super Bowl show, it's the Pepsi or Apple Super Bowl halftime show. It's so ingrained in how you think of what it is that you can't separate the brand and the actual experience itself. Whereas Eras Tour, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, and amazing you actually caught the move from the Pepsi halftime show to the Apple Music halftime show. Well done. You are a savvy student of marketing. One pro tip I'll give you, shameless plug pro tip. iHeartRadio Music Jingle Ball Tour is the first arena show for most of those artists you named.
Really?
So,
wow.
Yeah,
That's so cool. That's awesome.
A Taylor Swift, Lizzo, Dua Lipa, Ed Sheeran, Camila Cabello, on and on and on and on. Olivia Rodrigo, a lot of them, if it's not their first, it's one of their very first arena shows. So if you want to get the next, check out Jingle Ball this holiday.
I will.
You want to know who the next
Awesome.
in that genre, pop stars waiting to happen are always on that stage.
Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like wanting to listen to brilliant young marketing students drop insights on everything from music to gaming, but instead, you get a bunch of Gen X industry long haulers reading from their lengthy thought piece that they posted on their favorite B2B social channels this morning. This format is different from any other marketing podcast because we get to hear from the market about how things actually are. And together, you get our context with their perspective. You wouldn't settle for just any old marketing insights, so don't settle for any insurance. Get the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Okay, so we're like moving down the spectrum of transactional to relational, right? So we started with licensing, which is totally transactional, to sponsorship, which is a little bit more relational, right? Now let's talk about endorsement. And we're talking like artists hold the product. Like they are front and center and they're bringing the brand on as a plus one. Is there any examples that come to mind for you all that feel like, oh yeah, that was super cool, or no, that was super ooky?
I think when you said this, the first thing that came to mind for me, even like before this podcast, I was just thinking about Tyler the Creator and Converse, because in my head, it just makes so much sense. Tyler the Creator, in my opinion, is such a unique artist. It's like he will customize everything, his shows, his audience, his clothes, everything will be tailored to him. And the fact that Converse is always tailored to you, like, and once Tyler the Creator joined that, he gave the fandom an opportunity to express themselves through a brand that he was already using. So I think that aligned perfectly.
How about you, Julia? Is there anything that rings out to you, or maybe even repels you?
I think of something that repels me a little bit. I don't love when celebrities do like food partnerships, just because I feel like that's something to me, unless you're very passionate about like a specific diet or something, like, I don't know, I guess a food that you like, everybody already knows you as a celebrity, as an artist, as a person. It's like, you really care strongly about this. To me, it just feels so transactional. I'm like, there's no way this person that makes bajillion dollars is like eating this granola bar like on the regular. To me, I'm just like, it's so unbelievable. And I think it's just such a money grab.
So at Wyden, we did that work with McDonald's for Travis Scott. And I remember the pitch process as it was told in lore that McDonald's was like, should we use Jay-Z instead of Travis Scott? Because everyone knows Jay-Z. He's a household name. And it was like, no one's ever going to believe that Jay-Z eat McDonald's. Come on. Come on. But Travis Scott, we had the receipts of Travis Scott, being a fan, right? So to your point, there has to be some real congruence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell? Because the one I love is, it's a few years old now, I think, Heinz Ketchup and Ed Sheeran. You might have seen that ad, and Ed's going to fancy restaurants and trying to get them to serve Heinz Ketchup. But he's obsessed. He has a Heinz Ketchup tattoo.
That
so
I
he had
believe
the
that.
tattoo,
Yeah.
and then he actually pitched the company, and then the company made the ad. But I don't know if you saw that ad, if you know the difference between that and the granola bar example. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I didn't see it, but I think that would make a lot of sense to me he's got a bunch of tattoos. It wouldn't shock me. And he's such a cool, like, niche person that he would do something like that where it's like, it's kind of makes sense. But no, I didn't see the ad, but I can believe it. Yeah.
But you know what was killer though? To that point, we talk about music and endorsement. When Heinz Ketchup did the DJ Mustard,
Yes. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a
What
great
an
example.
ad. That's
Brilliant. That was brilliant. So that puts us at like the very polar opposite of transactional to relational, and that would be partnerships. Right? Like the McDonald's Travis Scott, that was a partnership. Travis Scott wasn't holding McDonald's. He was like, he had some skin in the game. It's such a hard thing to get our arms around because of all the complexity you all have identified. It's a level of intimacy you got to have. You got to know the nuances. You got to know the background. You got to provide utility and also provide all these other things, right? So like, do you all feel that? Do you feel like this is the hardest thing to capture? And if so, are there any examples where you like, that's the gold star, that's the gold standard?
I actually do have an example for my Marketing 300 final presentation. We were doing MAC Cosmetics, and it was Lady Gaga in MAC Cosmetics for the Viva Glam lipsticks. This is such a great use of bridging together two disparate people, companies, brands, names, and creating something that provides so much value, not just for customers, but for society. So basically, they partnered to create these 5 special exclusive lipstick shades with Lady Gaga, who is such a champion of LGBTQ plus rights and being so true to yourself and being super self-expressive. And these lipsticks that were called Viva Glam, every purchase of the lipstick would go towards like a foundation to help like LGBTQ plus youth. And those lipstick colors were also just fabulous shades, and everyone was obsessed with the colors. And also everybody knew about what the lipstick stood for because of the name and how it was related to Lady Gaga. And those colors, I think some of them still exist now, but it's that partnership and the success of not just the product, the campaign, of like Lady Gaga's visibility, but the cause's visibility, and MAC being a company that's centered around makeup for everybody, all ages, all races, all different genders. That just made perfect sense to me. But that partnership, I remember hearing about it when I was first discovering makeup when I was like 10 or 11. And until now, I'm like, that campaign has stuck with me. And I would love to see a campaign that does that much for like literally anything.
I mean, that's firing me up. Good
Amazing.
grief. Katie, how about you? What say you? Anything come to mind?
Yeah. So like when you said this, I feel like all I could think about was also the Duncan and Sabrina collab because
yeah.
obviously espresso was booming and it was like the first thing, what can we do here? Dunkin', Sabrina, espresso, boom. Obviously that's one that really like stood out to me. But I don't think it was as successful because it's not like I don't put Sabrina and Dunkin' together. And then when I was thinking about that, then I started thinking about Erewhon and how they align very well with whoever they're sponsoring next. So obviously we know Erewhon makes smoothies based on the artists and it's a really health focused shop. And they had Hailey Bieber and they've had Sabrina before and they tried to align with what these people consume to make it seem believable. To Julia's point, it needs to align with who they are. It needs to be something that could actually be credible rather than, I don't know, Hailey Bieber sponsoring Burger King.
If Starbucks had done espresso with Sabrina Carpenter, would you have bought that? Would you have bought into that?
That's an interesting question. I probably would have tried it. Especially being an international student and living outside of the US, Starbucks is not a big thing outside of the US. So it really wouldn't be like as exciting as any other brand that could maybe get that reach a little bit more.
So interesting though, right? You're hitting on something that it's so important, right? And it's so foundational to marketing, which is first, who's the target audience? I'm a New England girl, so Dunkin' is religion here. It's a whole, I actually just searched to see if Sabrina was from New England, because if she was, then it would make way more sense, right? Is the average Sabrina Carpenter fan is probably young, teenage, probably skews female. I don't know, probably urban, suburban, rural, probably crosses all those lines. But are they more likely to be a Starbucks drinker or a Dunkin' drinker or neither? So it's kind of like the end game, right? Maybe, they're young, they're teens. Maybe Dunkin's more accessible or more affordable, or I don't know. But, is the target audience the key there versus the perception of...
I did think about it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, you were all around it. You
That
made me
makes
think
it-
about
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense because if you listen to Sabrina's music, like it does attract more younger girls. And then, if anything, I think it creates like that connect between the younger generation and then Dunkin' as well, being someone that like they're a brand that I guess works with younger girls.
What I'm hearing here is that, like, when it comes to partnerships, there has to be a greater brand congruence between the artist and the actual brand, right? On the transactional side, it's like, as long as there's context, then sure. Will it really connect with me? Because like in my mind, I would think, oh, like Sabrina Carpenter, fun, a little tongue in cheek, right? But still like very polished, kind of sexy, upscaled, right? And to me, I go, oh, I get Starbucks there. That makes sense to me, considering the meanings that Starbucks holds in my mind. However, to Gail's point, meaning is not fixed. So for some consumers, so some people, they're like, I don't see Starbucks like that at all, right? Where others will see Dunkin' Donuts be like, Dunkin' Donuts is God. I mean, this is the calculus that marketers have to do. Marketers got it tough, I'm telling you. But this is the kind of calculus that marketers have to do, because this is all about the way we collectively make meaning, how we culturally make sense of the world.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. In my eyes, Dunkin' is a fun brand for fun people. It's more colorful. It's more out there, whereas Starbucks does make itself look more sophisticated and more higher end. It feels more unique to go with Dunkin', in my opinion.
We could talk all day long here because there's so much goodness here, but all things must come to an end, as they say. So this is the part of the show that we call Care or Don't Care. So I'm going to ask you some like quick, rapid things, and you tell me, keep it, we don't care, or more, yes, thank you, more, please, we do care. All right, so let's start softball here. Should brands spend small fortunes on music licensing because it makes such an emotional difference? Care or don't care?
Don't care.
Don't care. Sorry.
Don't apologize. That's great. I mean, if nothing
Okay.
else, like to me, that leaves the door open for like these smaller artists that are trying to get their stuff heard. Maybe you should just spend time on those guys, right? As opposed to
I love that.
Yeah.
cutting big checks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Save some money, support new artists.
Yeah, 100%. Make it a jingle to your own brand. So if you stand with a new artist, you can also make people remember the new artist and your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, jingles are powerful. I'm audio girl, but one of our sponsors here at Market Says has an iconic jingle, Like a Good Neighbor. State Farm is there. They've been using it forever.
go.
And when you hear it, you know who it is.
Exactly.
So I love jingles because they do get stuck in your head the same way pop music does.
That's right. Barry Manilow actually wrote that jingle for State Farm.
It's amazing. That's why it's probably lasted so long. Incredible
So good.
songwriter. Yeah.
So good. So let's increase the intensity on this one. All right. For those who don't know, Shaboozey, big country artist, he writes a song for Domino's, a jingle for Domino's, right? This is Domino's first brand refresh in 13 years, which was totally successful for these guys. New look, new tagline, new song, care or don't care.
I would say care. So it has to be the right person creating the right jingle for the right brand. And it also needs to be catchy enough.
I don't care for that only because I think still to me, I feel like it's so important for a brand to have its own identity. And something like a jingle or a song is like so core to the brand. I think any person could probably write like a kick-ass jingle for Domino's, and it doesn't have to be this like super expensive artist, a country artist too. And Domino's is from Ann Arbor, and I'm like, I don't really know if I buy that. So I just don't think it's worth it, and it doesn't really help the artist as like much. In it for Domino's, I'm like, it's just kind of random. I kind of almost it makes me want it like it less, to be honest.
All right. We talked a lot about sponsorship, the logos that are in the background that are wrapping Jumbotrons and the like. Care or don't care?
Don't care.
Don't care.
I think it's just back to that point of like, we've become so immune to it because there's just so much going around that it's like, unless there's a genuine meaning or if they're giving us, like, if there's like some utility behind it, I don't think there's any care for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's wallpaper, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You said it. I mean, the Market Says, Marcus, and I think this is the whole point of the show, which is we marketers know these stories. We get excited about them. We know they wrote this and they did that, and because we're marketing nerds. The market apparently cares a whole lot less.
Yeah, cool story, bro, basically.
Amazing.
Fagun, Julia, Katie, thank you all so very much. You've made me proud, as I know you would, as you always do. But we are so thankful for you, not only imparting your brilliance, but your candor. Because the idea here is that the better we understand the world that you navigate, the more likely that marketers are able to engage it in a meaningful way. So thank you so very much for being a part of Market Says. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having us. This was amazing.
Thanks for having us.
You know, for me, this was so eye-opening because my experiences are just so different than theirs. And I don't chalk it up to generationalism so much, but maybe it's because of the way that we consume music. And maybe it's the way we have relationships with artists. They're just different, right? Because there's so much music, there's so much supply that maybe our interactions with music are sort of transactional by nature these days. And the ones that feel more sacred, we're far more protective of them.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something, Marcus. I think there's also like this generation is so, and they said it, inundated with marketing. It's not just a music problem, right? It's I go to a concert and there's 8 million logos, so I don't see any. And, every time I open my feed, there's a gazillion things happening. So I just block them unless they really are authentic or have a real reason to be in that story. The hopeful part, it's not all bad news, marketers, right? I think there's definitely some hope. If you have a story to tell, working with an artist to figure out how to tell it felt like that was where they seemed to have some resonance and some openness.
Yeah, you're right. Like there's an oversupply of music and there's an oversupply of brands. But the idea of like less marketing, less music creates more connection, I think is a really powerful one. So for me, one of my favorite campaigns of all time, like top 10 favorite campaigns of all time, is Sprite Obey Your Thirst.
Oh yeah, that was genius. Yep.
Oh my gosh, like their ability to find the story that Sprite wants to tell about, trust your instincts and finding the right genre
Mhm.
that is a personification of that hip hop that was being overlooked and downplayed, but was still, talking with his chest.
Yep.
Like that connection, that campaign went on for a decade.
Yeah.
And it's still, and I love Sprite. It's one of my favorite sodas to this day because of that
They found
advertising.
you, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was far less marketing in the world then, just like there was far less music in the world. I welcome to think about like frameworks for this. There's a strategist. He was a chief strategy officer at Translation. He was my boss, a guy named John Green. Like this is the world that he orbits. He's just so phenomenal at this thing, like creating the frameworks, how brand and music are related so that we make better decisions. That's what I think we need to get to.
And it's so true because the ones we talked about where, where the market said, oh, I get that, right? Instantly was probably the one that had the right brief, right? The right frame around it. Tyler, the Creator, Converse. Converse is a canvas for creativity. That is their brand. That is their product. Here's a guy who's all about filling in those canvases. Perfect, right? And I'm sure the way they executed that, I guess you were part of it. Congrats, win there. But you go, oh, I get the narrative. It makes sense, and probably the collaboration and the stuff that came out of it worked because they were on the same brief. Whereas it's even if it's espresso and I make coffee, that may not be enough, right? The brief has to have a more of a narrative or a story.
It's not enough. I mean, that Gail, that's a mic drop. It's not enough. Like your category and your product connection to the artist is not enough. There needs more story, more meaning. That is, the brand has to be transcending the category to get to some story that is ideological, that is emotional, that is associative, that people go, oh yeah, I know that. I see the connection there. And when that happens, the magic happens. And it seems obvious, but the calculus that goes into it requires so much more than, oh, I like coffee and there's a song espresso, put those two hands together. Ooh. I mean, that's those things that sort of fall in the wayside or fall by the wayside that ends up becoming the wallpaper that apparently the market can tell.
Yes, the market does not love wallpaper. That's what I learned.
Or background music, apparently. Oh, that was fantastic. What a great episode. What a great episode. I love this because I'm learning too, which is great, right?
I love it.
We are going to school just like our listeners. And, that's the value. That's the utility that we bring, right? So for everyone listening, we're grateful to have you.
Yes. Market says, listen in.
There you go.
Market Says is a Bubbler Media iHeart podcast production.
I'm Rashad Tabakuwala.
And I'm Drew Ayani. We're from the Athena Project, and we want to talk about our new podcast.
Called Unbossing.
Unbossing?
Yes, Unbossing. You may have heard me say on many occasions, Drew, that the future doesn't fit in the containers of the past. Well, in this series, we're going to talk about one specific container that needs to be radically reshaped, and that is the shape of leadership today.
Indeed, Rashad, it does feel like everything is changing. New technologies, AI, new expectations, new ways of working.
Everything true, excepting the bosses of today.
And we're going to seriously take them apart.
And the way we're going to take them apart is we're going to unboss them.
Each week, we'll sit down with the most badass bosses in business and tech and talk about what they needed to unlearn in order to succeed again.
That's right, Drew. If success is about learning, prolific success is about unlearning and writing new rules for new times.
If you're a leader and you're not understanding why you need to unboss, then you've got to stop talking and start listening to Unbossing.
Because if you're not in the conversation, you're not in the game.
Unbossing is a Bubbler Media iHeart podcast production and is coming soon on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts.